Hi, with you Pixelf Studio, and today we're going to break down the Whatsout logo animation. Let's take a look at it. The idea behind the whole animation is to reflect all four areas of the company. It's communication, sports, video games, and camping. All the animation is realized by morphing, where the basic shape of all the objects is part of the logo. Let's see what it all looks like from the inside. With so many layers in a project, proper organization is important. Here it's implemented by repainting the layers in different colors. To avoid confusion, my main object is always painted dark purple so I can quickly find it on the timeline. Also, when animating logos, it's important to keep a consistent style so that one scene doesn't bleed out of another and vice versa. The cell phone, which here represents communication, is realized using simple shapes. The basic shape is a rectangle. We've also animated the speaker here, which then eventually transforms into a ball. The glare on the phone screen is done with alpha matte. We can duplicate the shape of the phone, turn on the fill in this shape, and this layer will serve as a mask for this glare. Here we've created a simple shape that flies from left to right. And we've enabled alpha matte on the phone shape copy. Next, this phone frame starts to expand. This is done with the size parameter. We can animate the parameters at any parametric shape, like rectangle. By disabling the linkage, we can animate those parameters. As this rectangle transforms, it takes on a shape that represents a soccer field. Here we've separated this layer so that we can more easily manipulate this quadrangle. These rather symmetrical compositional objects should be placed in the center of the composition. The title and action safe option can help us with that. And we can also align layers using the align option. The gate of this field is animated using two parameters, position and size. With the size parameter, we magnify this object. And we use the position parameter to adjust its position. And this line in the middle is animated using the trim path parameter. The transformation of this ball is also done parametrically, using the rounded rectangle tool. If we draw any shape, we can change its parameters such as rounding. You may notice that when the fillet ball flies over and hits the rectangle, it staggers a little bit. This is done using the adjustment layer with transform effect. So we can manipulate all the objects in the composition, not just one. There's also one little detail here. When the ball hits the goal, the number on the scoreboard changes its value. And that ball ends up flying out of sight. We've clipped it with masks. At the beginning of the transformation to the next scene, our rectangle is getting ready for action. It doesn't immediately go to the next shape. It kind of gains strength and goes to the next shape. There's also overshooting at the beginning here. If we look at the purple ball, it shrinks a lot during the overshooting. This helps determine its elasticity. After the soccer field is transformed into a game console, we can see that it rotates left and right, simulating an exciting game. This rotation is also realized using an adjustment layer and a transform effect. The square and round buttons are made using simple shapes. And the appearance is animated using scale. To emphasize the gameplay that some action is happening, we added symbols like this. These are crosses, hearts, circles, and lines. All of these elements are drawn with shapes, with the heart icons having a rather chopped up shape. This is done to keep the style of the logo. During the transition to the next scene, we also have a preparation for the action, where the basic shape of the game console first jumps up and then abruptly drops down. This saves overshooting in the animation after the transformation. Now I'll show you what I mean by that. The overshooting animation looks much more lively and interesting. It can be realized with keys or with expressions. The tent animation in this scene is realized with the path parameter. When it appears, it is stretched and then shrunk. Postcards that fly out from inside this tent retain their physical properties and fly away through the air. The path of each one looks like this. Here we've animated the position and rotation parameters. In order to create these rounded path shapes, we can edit each of these points. We do it this way. We create any shape, animate its position, and then using the Ctrl-Alt key we can pull on each of these points. And that way we can create rounded path shapes. The sleeping bag that flies out from the bottom retains its momentum and its weight. Implemented using standard parameters as well. Graph editor position looks like this. Trees and clouds are animated using the scale parameter. Then eventually all the elements disappear in a similar way as they appeared and the main logo frame appears. It's also created using shapes, but here it's no longer parametric parameters, but editable, because we need to change its shape to match the shape of the logo. To competently animate the appearance of each letter, we made this mask. This mask serves as a limiter for each of the letters. Each of them has track matte enabled. And the source is this mask. If you don't do that, then our letters are going to pop out of this frame and it's not going to be pretty. As each figure appears in the composition, we added little extra details. For example, here, when the phone flies out, we backed up its shape with lines like this. They're animated using the trim path parameter. And there are also lines like these here. They emphasize the movement of the objects. These lines are also animated using the trim path parameter. These additional lines are in every scene, for example, here. When the ball is hit. In the game console scene. And here when the rectangle collapses too. This helps emphasize the movement of the objects and kind of show that the action is complete. The technical part in this animation is pretty simple, but in order for an animation to be really cool and memorable, you need an idea, and the best way to keep that idea alive is to draw a storyboard. Our storyboard looks something like this. This is necessary to keep the idea clear so that you don't lose the idea and realize everything that you have in mind. Also, if we look at the logo, it has only two colors that are blue and dark purple. In order to keep the style, we used only these colors in the animation. If at all possible, you should always keep this color palette. After we have finished all the animation, we can add sound effects by adjusting each of them in volume. And we ended up with an animation like this. Thanks for watching and see you again.